Okay, good morning. Today is October the 24th. It's Monday. Welcome back to our civics class. Sorry I missed you last week. I had a sick computer. And you know, that's just a really bad situation to deal with when you have a sick computer. That can be very distressing when your whole life is tied up on that thing. So hopefully it's fixed now and won't give me future problems. So to start out with today, I want to have you take a look at Helaman chapter 6, verse 37. If you remember from your Book of Mormon studies, this period of time in the chapters of Helaman and in the book of 3rd Nephi is the few years, maybe 30 years, just prior to the time the Savior is going to be born, and then also during the 30 years of his life, how the Nephites go wicked again. But here in the book of Helaman, we have a strange phenomenon, the thing that is happening. The Lamanites are becoming righteous, and the Nephites are becoming wicked, which is usually the opposite of how it's been all along through the book of Alma, and up through, all the way from the Book of Mormon up to the end of the book of Alma. The Nephites were always the good guys, and the Lamanites were always the bad guys. And whenever the Nephites got in trouble, then the Lamanites would come down and scourge them and stir them up in remembrance and repentance until they got back on the good side of God and they were able to conquer their enemies again. Well, the funny thing happened is that we have a problem with the government. Remember, this is a civics class. We're talking about the government. And the Book of Mormon, I told you, has a lot of good information in it about government. But in the Lamanites had become very righteous. We got Nephi and Lehi, who were the sons of Helaman, and they were super missionaries. They went out and they baptized thousands of Lamanites who became righteous. And as a matter of fact, everybody was righteous. For a while, the Nephites were righteous, then the Lamanites were righteous, and everybody, it said in the Book of Mormon, anybody could go any place they wanted to go. And they could buy and sell and trade with anybody, any place in the whole place. I mean, there was no borders between the Nephites and the Lamanites anymore, and they became very prosperous. Now there is a lesson for you. The lesson is that when people are free to trade, the more free they are to trade, the greater the wealth that will be created among them. Right now we have a presidential election going on in our country, and one of the big issues is this idea of trade and trade partnerships and trade treaties. And we got Donald Trump telling us that we got lousy negotiators, and they don't know how to make a deal, and we're getting beat all over the world by all these trade deals, and we need to have smart businessmen that can go in there and negotiate these trade deals and get better deals for the United States to make America great again. And Hillary Clinton is saying the same kind of thing, that she supported this deal, and then she didn't support this deal, but now she supports this deal, the Pacific Partnership. Well, here's the deal. The best way to have prosperity through trade is to not have any trade deals, no trade partnerships. The best deal is to let everybody trade with anybody they want to on whatever terms they want to trade. So if we got a businessman in the United States that wants to sell some stuff to Vietnam, fine. If we got a businessman in the United States that wants to buy some stuff from Vietnam or China or any place, Brazil, in the whole world, they should be able to do that without checking on the government to say, you're allowed to buy this, you're not allowed to buy that, you're allowed to pay this price for this, you're not allowed to buy that. They make these trade partnerships, these trade deals that are thousands and thousands of pages of rules and regulations about what is allowable for trade. And this is not free trade. They call it the free trade deal. It's like the NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. It's not a free trade agreement at all. It's a regulated trade agreement. If it was free trade agreement, it would be on a postcard. And all it would say is, buy what you want from whoever you want. Sell what you want to whoever you want. And that would be free trade. And if you had that kind of trade, we would have the greatest increase in prosperity. And the reason why is, when you go to a grocery store to buy a gallon of milk, why do you give the store $2 for that gallon of milk? Ethan, you got your microphone open. You tell me the answer. Ethan, are you there? Can you hear me? Come in.
I'm here.
Hello?
Hello, Ethan. They own the milk and they're selling it. But the point is, why are you willing to give them $2 for a gallon of milk? And they're willing to give you a gallon of milk in exchange for your $2. Why?
Because we both think it's a good deal.
The reason why is because you want the milk more than you want your $2. And the store wants your $2 more than they want the milk. Okay? So you agree on a price and you say the price is going to be $2. But unless you thought it was worth more than $2, you would keep your $2. You think the milk is worth more than $2, and the store says, I think the milk is worth less than $2. And so the store says, I'll happily trade you a gallon of milk for your $2. All right? So who's better off after the deal is done? Who's better off, the store or you?
The store.
The store is better off. They got your $2. How about you? Are you better off? Gavin says, yes, you are. Why? Because you got the milk. And you wanted the milk more than you wanted the $2. So now you are better off. You're happier. You're more prosperous. You got what you wanted more in exchange for what you wanted less. Okay? And that's how prosperity is created. Everybody trades what they want less for what they want more. And in the process of everybody doing that, everybody becomes more prosperous. They become happier. They become more, they get more of the stuff that they want, which is the whole idea of prosperity. Prosperity is not measured by how much money you have in the bank. It's measured by how much stuff you have that you want, how easy your life is. So, you read in Helaman, this is what was going on. And this was kind of getting out of hand here, off the track. But here's in chapter 6, verse 37. What happened is that there was these bad guys called Gadianton robbers. And these guys thought that the best way to get prosperity was not by trading, but by taking things from people who had stuff they wanted. They would steal it. And they got themselves infiltrated into the government. They began to gain positions of authority as judges in the government. And when the people saw this beginning to happen, here's what it said the Lamanites did. In verse 37, it came to pass that the Lamanites did hunt the band of robbers of Gadianton, and they did preach the word of God among the more wicked part of them, insomuch that this band of robbers was utterly destroyed from among the Lamanites. So how did the Lamanites destroy the robbers? Ada, how did the Lamanites destroy the robbers? They taught them the gospel. They preached the gospel and baptized them. They sent missionaries to them. And that's like saying, how do I destroy my enemy? I go put my arm around him and say, hey, how you doing? Can I buy you a piece of cake? Okay. And he's not my enemy anymore. He's my friend. And in the course of doing that, I destroyed my enemy. Right? Well, that's what the Lamanites did. They destroyed the robbers by converting them to the gospel. But then the Lamanites, on the other hand, if you read verse 38, says, did build them up and support them, beginning at the more wicked part of them, until they had overspread all the land of the Nephites, and had seduced the more part of the righteous, until they had come down to believe in their works and partake of their spoils, and join with them in their secret murders and combinations. And thus they'd obtain the sole management of the government. The robbers took over the whole government because the people supported the robbery. Now, does that sound kind of like Frederick Bastiat talking here? Did he say it's plunder? What is plunder? Plunder is stealing stuff, right? And he said, if you get involved in plunder, everybody's going to want to have a piece of the action. And so they said, let's all get in on this deal. We'll all get in on stealing stuff from other people. And that's how the robbers took over the whole coming of the Nephites. And now we have the Nephites being very wicked, and we have the Lamanites being very righteous. So the Lamanites had to send missionaries over to the Nephites to try to get them turned around. And there was one particular one by the name of Samuel, who was a prophet, and they wanted to kill him because of what he was telling them. So you see how the Book of Mormon teaches us how we should be running our country? We should have freedom. We should have liberty. We should have righteousness. And the best thing that you can do to fix our country right now is not go vote for one guy or the other guy. Go on a mission. Teach the gospel and destroy all those wicked people by making them into righteous people. Send an invitation to Jared. Okay, so let me ask you this question. How did you guys get along with this reading of The Proper Role of Government by Butch Otter and John Wenders and Ezra Taft Benson? Was this easier than reading Frederick Backstreet for you?
Yes.
It was? Good, I'm happy to hear that. Anybody else have a better time with it? Carson, how'd you do with it? Carson, I'm calling on you. How did you do with reading? Were you able to get it better?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I asked a closed-in question. I got an open-in answer, a closed answer. Here's the deal. You know, if you're reading stuff like this that I'm assigning you and you have trouble understanding it, I would recommend that you get yourself a dictionary. And look up the words you don't understand, or look up the words you have any questions about, and that'll help it become clear to you. But that's the whole idea. You've got to understand the words that are being thrown at you. So let's take a look at this quiz that you did for me this week and see if we can understand the first 18 pages of this. We're going to go around the mulberry bush again, and we're going to start with Ningyan. Ningyan is always the first one in the classroom. She gets to open the doors before anybody else comes in. She's the eager beaver. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense at all. So Ningyan, question number 1, what is statism?
It's a political system in which the state has substantial centralized control over social and economic affairs.
That's exactly right. Can you say that in teenage words?
They have the political system, the state has most of the control over our affairs.
Who's the political system?
Government?
The government. Okay? So statism, the meaning of the word statism is defined in the beginning of the word state. The state means the government. We think of the state of Idaho, that's a government. Or the United States of America, that's a government. The government, statism is government gets control of everything. You said specifically economic systems, political systems. Basically, it's the idea that we don't want people to have too much freedom. They're going to make lousy choices. They're going to make bad mistakes, and we need to prevent them from doing that. And therefore, the government should have control. You know that the government passes 300, 400, 500 rules and regulations every day? They publish it in a book called the Federal Register. There's regulations about what color tomatoes are allowed to be if they're going to be sold in a grocery store, and how big they are, and how round they have to be. There's regulations about how many waters of gallon can be flushed, how many gallons of water can be flushed in your toilet. There's regulations about the lead in your pencil. There's lead regulations. We saw a little video when the whole, the Brexit. Does everybody know what Brexit is? Who doesn't know what Brexit is? Raise your hand. I only got 1, 2. Okay. Brexit was a vote that was taken over in the United Kingdom where the country was going to vote. They were going to have a referendum for all the people to vote on whether they should remain a member of the European Union or not. And everybody said, oh, if you get out of the European Union, it's going to be a catastrophe. Everything's going to fall apart. We won't be able to trade with anybody. They already had their own money, so that wasn't an issue. The British used pounds for their money, whereas all the rest of the European Union, which is about 19 other European countries, all use euros for their currency. It's common currency, no matter where you go, from Greece to France to the Netherlands to Norway. If you want to go to any of those places, they spend their money in euros. And if you go there, you have to take your US dollars and change them into euros. So anyway, there was these great catastrophes being predicted if the United Kingdom decided to leave the European Union. Well, they took the vote, and it came out by a few percentage points that they decided to leave. They didn't want to be part of the European Union anymore. And that was why it was called Brexit. The British were going to exit the European Union. And that was why it was called Brexit, B-R-E-X-I-T. Okay? So there was a video made that showed a guy waking up in the morning in his bed, and he had to reach over to the night table there and turn off the alarm clock, and he had his cell phone on the table. And the video began to show how many laws and rules and regulations were coming from the European Union. He said there was like 57 laws pertaining to the pillow he was sleeping on. There was 114 laws pertaining to his alarm clock. There was 450 laws pertaining to his cell phone. There was 927 laws pertaining to his toaster. He put his bread into toast, and there was 67 laws pertaining to the loaf of bread that he opened. I mean, it just went on and on like that. Well, the same thing is true in the United States. We have got laws, rules, regulations for so many facets of our life. I mean, you probably can't even appreciate it, how many laws and rules there are. Do you realize that it's impossible to buy a vehicle that does not have seat belts? Now, I don't know if anybody would want to, but suppose I said to myself, look, I'm willing to take a chance on my life that I'm a good enough driver, I can keep myself out of trouble, and I don't want to pay for seat belts in my car because that's like an extra 200 bucks. Actually, it's probably more than that. But I don't want seat belts in my car. I'd rather save the 200 bucks. Can I go into the car dealership and say, I want you to order me a car with no seat belts? And what will they say?
Do it.
They'll say what? Say again, I couldn't hear you.
You're living in a pipe dream.
They would say I'm living in a pipe dream? Well, I don't know what they would say. It might be something like that. Was that your answer, Jaquel, that I couldn't hear?
Very possible.
They would say, no, we are not allowed to sell you a car with no seat belts. There's laws and rules and regulations against that. You have to have a seat belt in your car. And I would say, really? Well, whose car is it? Is it going to be my car, or is it going to be somebody else's car? I mean, if I'm going to buy it, shouldn't I be able to say what's in it or not? And they would say, nope, sorry, the government has control of that, and you are not allowed to buy a car with no seat belts. And that is only one small iota of the stuff that is being regulated in the cars that we drive. Don't get me started. Okay, so the answer to question number one is statism, that the government controls everything. But here, let me tell you one more thing about that. Every rule, every decision that the government makes, every regulation that they pass is one less piece of freedom that the people have. It's one less choice they can't make for themselves because the government, somebody with a fancy hat or a badge on their shirt, made a choice for everybody. And all of the individual people now can no longer make that choice for themselves. Okay? That's when we talk about creeping statism, we're talking about this process of getting more and more and more laws, rules, and regulations that people cannot do for themselves. Okay, that's a good answer to number one. Number two, Carson Hinckley. True or false? Congressman Otter is grateful that we still have some freedom left in America to decide what is best for ourselves. True or false?
Real quick, you said my last name, Hinckley. It's Hinckley.
I said what?
Hinckley.
Hinckley?
No, Hinckley.
Oh, Hankley instead of Hinkley?
Yeah.
You have very sensitive ears.
Yeah. True.
That is true. He did say exactly that. He said, we are in the business of taking freedom away from people, not in the business of giving people freedom. Number 3, Gavin. True or false? Congressman Utter admits that he is in the business of reducing freedom in America. And if Americans keep any freedom, it's pure luck.
True.
That is true. He said that very much, didn't he? But remember, you every time you see a football game, land of the free, home of the brave. Okay, number 4, Adriana. Why have the socialist and communist political parties largely disappeared from the political scene in America? Do you know anybody who's running for president of the United States who says, I'm a communist? Do you know anybody who's running for president of the United States who says, I'm a socialist?
Bernie Sanders.
Oh, yeah, Bernie Sanders said that, didn't he? But he said, I'm a socialist, but I'm a Democrat. You vote for the Democrat Party, you're voting for me, the socialist. Okay, so Adriana, why don't we have Socialist Party anymore and Communist Party anymore?
Because it's been, it's just now, just in our system, and it's been in collectivism. Collectivism. I can't say it.
Collectivism? Well, I think you said the right answer. Give yourself credit for that answer, but here's the specific deal. The reason we don't need a Socialist Party and a Communist Party anymore is because the Democrat Party and the Republican Party took them over. They said, we like all those ideas the socialists had. We like all those ideas the communists had. We're going to make our ideas. And so now we've got Democrats and Republicans that are doing the same thing that the socialists and the communists used to be saying. Okay, a long time ago, it was the Republicans and the Democrats that said, no, we want to have freedom. We want to have democracy. We don't want to have government do everything. And now they say, well, yeah, we want government to do everything. Okay? So they didn't change their name. The Democrats and the Republicans didn't change their names to socialists and communists, but they have changed their philosophies. They have changed their ideals. They have changed their goals and objectives so that now they want to do all the same kind of stuff that socialists and communists used to want to do. And of course, the communists and socialists still want to do those things. You know what the one question was that Bernie Sanders would never answer when he was running for president before Hillary Clinton beat him? The one question he would never answer, tell us about what's going on in Venezuela. Venezuela. Why would he not talk about what was going on in Venezuela? Anybody know about that?
And their social regimes. Like,
You got to talk louder, Kennedy. Can't hear you. You're mumbling in your microphone.
aren't they under like social regimes or something like that?
Venezuela government is pure socialism. They had a guy there by the name of Hugo Chavez, and he says, I am going to take this country and make it great again. We're going to give everybody a piece of the pie. And he took over all the oil companies, and he took over all the businesses and all the property. And he says, the government now owns everything, and we're going to give it to all the poor people to take care of them. Well, that was a few years ago. Hugo Chavez died, but his successor came along behind him and kept doing the same thing he was doing. And what's the condition in Venezuela now? Do you know? Everybody healthy, wealthy, and happy? No. Everybody's broke. They are having riots in the street because people are starving to death. They have people that are just going out and digging up the garbage dumps trying to find something to eat. The place is an economic mess, and it's an example of pure socialism. And so people would say, okay, Bernie, if socialism is so great, tell me what's going on in Venezuela. They got socialism. And he said, oh, I'm only going to talk about the United States. We need to have free college education. We need to have free health care. We need to have, and he started talking about everything he wanted to have in the United States. But he wouldn't talk about Venezuela. But that's what happens when you have socialism. You have equal poverty for everybody. Okay, number 5, I am up to Kennedy. True or false? Collectivist philosophies include socialism, communism, and fascism, and others. The common element among these that deceives people is that there is no such thing as society.
True.
That's true. He was talking about that. He's saying society is a figment of your imagination. It's just an idea. If I'm to say, for example, what does Burley need? What am I talking about? What does Burley need? Does Burley need a professional football team? Does Burley need new sidewalks? Does Burley need more trees and parks? How am I to say what Burley needs? Who's Burley? How does Burley need something or want something? How can Burley be happy with something?
About
Who
flower
needs?
pots.
Say what? Kennedy, I couldn't hear you again.
How about flower pots?
Flower pots, there you go. Burley needs flower pots to make the streets beautiful. Well, there is no such thing as Burley. There's only people that live in a place that's called Burley. Do you think there's some people that are happy that Burley now has flower pots on the streets? Probably there are. Are there some people that are ticked off and mad because Burley has flower pots on the streets? Yes, there are. There are people that say, what a waste of money. Why are you taking my tax money to make flower pots on the streets? I don't want flower pots on my streets. Okay? So the idea that Burley needs something, Burley wants something, Burley is happy about something is a figment of your imagination. It's not countries. We talk about, we have a war. We have Germany attacked France. Well, did Germany attack France? Really, did the whole country of Germany come up and attack the whole country of France? No. Some people in Germany attacked some people in France. Okay? And the idea of society and countries and states, they're all figments of the imagination. It's only individual people that have needs, wants, desires, ambitions, hopes, dreams, happiness, sadness, and the rest of it. You have to be a human being to have those things. Okay? Good. Number 6. And I am up to Dylan. Why is the idea of the public good so dangerous to freedom?
People can do evil things for the public good.
Okay, you were kind of fading out on me there, Dylan. Step close to the microphone and say it again.
People do evil things for the public good.
People can do evil things for the public good. That's true. They can do evil things. Can they also do good things for the public good? Was that a yes? You're kind of freezing up on me. The answer is yes. They can do good things. They can do bad things. They can do anything in the name of the public good. Suppose I put forth an argument that it is for the public good for everybody in the city of Burley to have their lawn mowed every week. I mean, look at it. We've got some people who don't mow their grass every week, and they've got dandelions coming up. And the wind is carrying the seeds of the dandelions, and they're going across the yard, and they're planting dandelions in their neighbor's yard. Wouldn't everybody be better off if their lawn was cut every week and we didn't have any dandelions in anybody's yard? Of course we would. Therefore, we must pass a law that says the government will provide lawnmowers and lawn mowing people to mow your grass every week. Wouldn't that be wonderful? You don't have to mow your grass. The government's going to do it for you. And that can be justified in the name of the public good. Okay? How about this? Do you think it would be in the public good if everybody got their car washed every week? I mean, after all, who wants to have dirty cars driving around their town? Doesn't that make our town look nasty and filthy? We don't want people to have dirty cars. We need to have clean cars in Burley. Therefore, we propose a law that the government shall provide a free car wash for every vehicle in the city of Burley every week. And where does it stop? And the answer is, once you go down that slippery slope, there can be no limit to it. You can justify anything in the name of the public good. Well, here's my question for you. Who is the public, and who gets to decide what is good?
We're the public.
Who? We? Are you? So you get to decide what's good for the public?
No, I think the public as people, no, the public is separate individuals. So the separate individuals should be deciding what's best for them.
Okay, so everybody can decide what's best for themselves. If you want to have a clean car, you can wash it every week. But if you want me to have a clean car, can you force me to wash my car every week and call that the public good? Here's my point. No matter what you propose, every tax dollar that is proposed and spent for some purpose, somebody is mad about it. Somebody would not choose to voluntarily spend their money that way. We take taxes from people to pay for public schools. Would I voluntarily pay taxes for public schools if I was given a choice? I'm not telling you. But I know there's somebody in this town who would say, no, I don't want to pay taxes. I already educated my kids. They're smart as Cracker Jacks. I don't need to pay taxes to educate other people's kids. Okay? We're going to come to that, to more of that idea come a little bit later. All right, we're down to Ethan Kemp. The public good is dangerous for freedom. We're on number 7. True or false? Moral transgressions can only be committed by individuals against individuals. True or false? I can't hear you, Ethan. Ethan, are you there? Come in, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Ethan, can you hear me? Okay, somebody help out Ethan. We're having technical difficulties for Ethan. We'll come back to Ethan. Jaquel. Number 7, true or false? Moral transgressions can only be committed by individuals.
I would say true.
I would say true also. Okay? For example, we have a drone, and the drone is sent by somebody in the military or by the President of the United States over to attack a bad guy in Somalia or in Qatar or in any of those, East Syria, some of those places. But instead of killing the bad guy, they made a goof and they shot a wedding or they shot a funeral instead. And instead of killing the bad guy, they killed grandma and grandpa and a whole bunch of little kids. Whose fault is that? The drone came from the United States of America. Are you guilty of murder because you sent a drone to kill a guy in a funeral and a bunch of little kids in a hospital? You're not guilty? Who's guilty? Is it the guy who was flying the remote controls down in the basement of the Pentagon? Is he the one that's guilty for killing those people?
I think it's the person that issued the order for this bombing.
The person who gave the order for the bombing. So the person who gave the order for the bombing, how about the person who paid for the missile in the first place?
I think you have to. There's lots of sides to it, because the person who is flying the drone, technically, he's using the weapon to kill somebody, so that could be considered murder. But then you have the person who pays for the missile and who gives the order, so there's actually kind of like a little chain link of
Okay, well that is a very important question. It's a very serious question because murder is a very serious crime. It is very, very evil to kill people who do not deserve to be killed. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the history over the Obama administration, the 8 years, of all the people that have been killed by accident because of drone strikes, there's more people that were killed by far. It's kind of like 7 to 1. They killed 7 innocent people for every 1 bad person that they killed. So who's responsible for all the killing of all those innocent people, the kids in the weddings and the funerals and the hospitals? Who's responsible for that? Well, this is the neat thing about democracy. We can vote for Mr. Obama to go be the president, and he can go around and kill people, and we don't have to be guilty because we didn't do it. It was somebody else that did it. And President Obama says, I didn't do it. It was that guy flying the drone that made a mistake. And the guy flying the drone says, I didn't do it. He told me to. And everybody can point to somebody else. And then we can go around and commit murders and destructions of property, and nobody is guilty. Isn't that neat? Actually, it's not very neat. It would be better if somebody could be held accountable for all of the crimes and sins that are committed. And so, when we say moral transgressions can only be committed by individuals, do you suppose that when the government, or when we all stand before the judgment bar of God, that he's going to say, France, you are guilty of invading Germany, and therefore, France, you are going to go to the outer darkness kingdom, and Germany, you're going to go free. Can he do that? No. Countries and governments do not stand to be judged of their acts. Only individual people do. And that's why we're going to read that President Benson said, we believe that God holds individuals accountable for their actions in relation to their government. If you support a government that goes and kills people innocently, you share some of the guilt for that. Okay, going on. I'm up to Ethan Kemp. Are you there again? Ethan, hello. Come in, please. Can you hear me? No, he can't. Okay, then I'm going to go to Ada Gano. Number 8. What is a majoritarian standard of morality?
It's a higher percentage of people determine what the standard is.
A higher percentage of people determine what the standard is. Okay, majority means 51%, right? More than not. And they get to say what's moral and what's not moral. Okay, how would you like that? If you want to find out if abortion is moral or immoral, we take a vote on it. And if more than 51% of the people say it's okay to have abortions, then it's moral, it's okay, right? Okay, if 51% of the people say it's moral to drink alcohol, then we make it legal and we say it's moral. It's no problem. People can do that. If we say 51% of the people should be able to smoke marijuana, then we make it moral and we pass a law and say it's okay to do that. In other words, it's saying the majoritarian standard says you don't determine by absolute right and wrong. You determine by popular majority. You take a vote. You take a poll. You say what everybody else says. Okay? Did you ever hear somebody say, or did you ever say to your mom or your dad, everybody wears dresses like this? And what did your mom or dad say when you said that? And that dress was really immodest. Did you say, it's the in thing. Everybody wears it. You're going to make me look like an idiot if I have to wear this funny dress you want me to wear. Okay? That's a majoritarian standard of morality. When you, thanks for your comments, guys. When you determine what is right for you based on what everybody else is doing. Okay? And he says, that's a bad idea. That's not how we determine what's right or wrong, is by taking a vote.
It's only like 2%, and that makes the majority, like the 2% of the really loud people.
That's true, Kennedy, and I think we're coming to that question as well. Number 9, I'm up to Anna Lee. Democracy is uniquely suited to avoid the growth of statism and the consequent loss of freedom. False. The answer is false. It's just the opposite of what he said. He said democracy is uniquely suited to increasing statism. And that's what I talked about. If you compare our country today from how it was when the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they would say, holy mackerel, democracy has really gone down a slippery slope a long way. We have rules for everything, including, don't get me started. Number 10, Ningen, back to you. Under democracy, we can be sure that the majority will actually be the rulers.
False.
That is false. As a matter of fact, he said it might be possible in a democracy for the minority to take charge of the government and to rule. So now I want you to think about this. How many people vote in presidential elections as a percentage of the population that are eligible to vote in the United States? How many people actually vote? What percentage of actual eligible voters do vote? Anybody know? Do you think that's something you should know as a self-aware, conscious, and highly informed teenager in Burley, Idaho? Should you know how many people vote in presidential elections?
We're not
Don't
allowed.
know if anybody that you're not allowed to vote, so you're not allowed to be interested in it. You're not allowed to know about it.
Well, no, you can know about it. I'm just saying, but you're not allowed to put a say in it.
Okay, so you're not allowed to vote, but you are allowed to know about it because someday will come and you will be allowed to vote. Okay, so of the people that are allowed to vote, what percentage of them actually do vote? Okay, round numbers is about half. Okay, round numbers. You can look up the statistics in the last 10, 15, 20 presidential elections. It's very close. If it gets up to 55%, 50%, they say that's a great turnout. We had a really high turnout. It runs about half. Okay, and if you look at the other minor elections, like the election for town dog catcher, it's much, much less than that. Matter of fact, they have elections for passing extra taxes, the school bond, and there's only like 10% of the people that show up to vote. Okay? Very, very small percentage of people vote. Now, of the people that did vote, remember we got half of the whole that did vote. Of the people that do vote, that 50% vote, how many vote for the Republican candidate and how many vote for the Democrat candidate? And the answer again is it's about half. Very close, usually a few percentage points is all the difference there is between one party and the other. If he wins by 3 or 4 percentage of the points, they say, oh, it's a landslide victory. We had a great victory. Now I have a mandate to do whatever I want to do because they voted, so many people voted for me. So I'm down to half of the half that even voted, and that's 25% of the people that agree with their guy who's now going to be the president over 100% of the people. Okay, so do you see the math working out here? It's called democracy. It's called the voice of the people rule, but it doesn't work out that way. The people don't actually rule. So, I mean, when I say the majority, it's not a majority ever that is actually in charge of the government. Okay, moving onward, we're going to have to speed this up to get done. How is church doctrine contrary to collectivism? I'm up to Carson, I think.
The doctrine of the church is all about the individual person, their agency, choices, hard work.
Okay, and what's collectivism all about?
I can't read my handwriting, like the something of society, individual people are lost.
Okay, so individuals are taken up, they're consumed by the collective. Okay, we don't care about the individual bees. All we are interested in is the whole beehive. And if some little bees get squished and dropped off on the edge along the way or lost, no big deal. We still have the whole beehive. That's all we care about is the collective. And the collective is making the decisions for the whole group. Okay? How are you going to educate your kids? We're going to decide to send you to a big building and give you a choice of 3 classes, and you sit there for 8 hours a day. And that is a choice that is made by the collective. Okay?
Sure.
What are you going to eat for dinner? Okay, if the collective is going to decide, we're going to say you're not allowed to have this kind of food, you're going to have this kind of food. You ever wonder how come when you go to the grocery store and you go down the cereal aisle, the cold cereal aisle, how many different kinds of cold cereal do you see there?
I don't know.
Did you ever go there?
Wait, go to what? I didn't hear that part.
Go to Smith's and look at the cold cereal.
Oh, I don't eat cereal.
You don't?
I eat oatmeal.
Okay, well, there you have it. Okay, here we've got some people that go around and they don't even eat cereal.
So they don't care if there's 100 guys.
Okay, that's my point. Under the collective, we would make that decision for you, and we would say, you need to have a balanced breakfast, and it got to consist of cold cereal and milk, orange juice and toast, and if you want, you can have a piece of banana. Okay? Collectivism makes the decisions for the individuals rather than the other way around. Okay. No, I'm not telling you. I'm just telling the difference between collectivism and church doctrine. Church doctrine says individuals should be accountable, not groups. That was good, Carson. Thanks. Okay, number 12. Ethan, are you there? Can you hear me? Ethan, hello, hello. Come in, please. Talk to me, Ethan.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I heard some noise, but I couldn't understand what it was. What does Benson say should be the basis for determining your opinion on any given issue? Go. Number 12.
Is it based?
Yeah, I said Ethan, number 12. What's the answer to number 12?
Is it based?
Something I couldn't understand.
Hello?
Hello. Ethan, tell me the answer to number 12, please. The answer to number 12. Can you tell me the answer to number 12?
I'm trying.
Sorry, we must have a bad connection. Okay, here's what I think you said. You said sound principles should be the basis for determining your opinion. And that's correct. Good job, Ethan. Thank you. Number 13, Jaquel. Benson quotes Albert Bowen to clearly state the foundation principle upon which all questions should be answered. What is that principle?
Isn't it that it should all be based upon, I know that's by the wrong person, never mind.
We're on number 13.
Number 13. So, I wrote down that if you have to see if it steps over redistributing the wealth, providing so-called benefits for some citizens, and then it becomes a mean for its accurately described legal plunder.
And that's the basic principle on which all questions can be answered?
I guess
That
not.
sounds too complicated. That's not what he said. Who wants to help us out here? What is the easy, simple principle? Ada.
It's always a right and wrong.
A right and a wrong, that's right. We made that into a song. There's a right and a wrong to every question. Okay? There's a right and there's a wrong to every question, and that's the basic principle. Do what is right. Okay, thank you very much. Jaquel. Ninian, I'm up to you for number 14, true or false? God will not hold men individually accountable for the consequences of the laws passed by the government.
False.
That's false. He said, yeah, we read section 134. He does hold us individually responsible. Okay, Carson, can you do number 15, true or false?
Yes, yeah. Bye. True.
Gosh, that's number 15 is true. We got to protect life, liberty, and property in order to have peace. Number 16, Gavin. Under what conditions are men bound to support their government?
As long as it's not passing laws that require them to do something wrong.
Not only that, there's another one that comes before them. It doesn't require them to do anything wrong, and it protects their life, liberty, and property. As long as they're being protected by the government and they're not being required to do something wrong, then, according to church doctrine, we are bound to support that government. Okay, good, thanks. Number 17, Adriana. What's the two possible sources of human rights? Where do rights come from?
Either God or the government.
That's right, either God or the government. Okay, and you have to recognize that once you grant government the power to give you a right, then you also have given the government the power to take away that right. Okay, that's why the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, was written as a prohibition on government against offending or infringing upon rights. It does not say, as does the Constitution of the Soviet Union, that you have any given rights. It doesn't say you have the right to a job, you have the right to a house, you have a right to remain silent. It doesn't say that. It says the government shall not infringe your rights. Okay, it's a recognition of rights that coming from God. Okay, number 18, Kennedy. What powers can the people give to those they hire to run the government?
Those which the people themselves have.
Correct. Can't give power you do not have. If I do not have the power to go punch my neighbor in the nose and make him pay for my kids to have piano lessons, I can't make the government do it for me.
But why would you punch him in the nose?
Well, the government doesn't usually punch him in the nose. They just arrest him and take his house and throw him in jail. Okay? And if he happens to get his nose in the way in the process, too bad. Okay? But they will come and arrest you and take your property away from you if you do not voluntarily do what they tell you to do, which is to pay for your other kids, pay for the neighbor's kids' math lessons. Okay?
I do love math. It's awesome.
Okay. I know you love civics too. Okay, number 19. Who am I up to? Adriana? No. I think Kennedy? Am I up to you? I just did Kennedy. Dylan. Under what two conditions would Benson's conscience not be offended to physically punish somebody by punching them in the nose and taking them to jail?
When they were either trying to harm you or your family.
Okay, basically, yeah. In a matter of defense, he has done something evil. He was, yeah. Here's what Benson said. He said, if he has done something evil, or if he has failed to do something that I have a right to require him to do, I have a moral right to require him to do. In the Book of Mormon, we have a guy by the name of Moroni who went around threatening to kill people who would not help defend their country. Did he have a right to do that? Did he have a moral right to require people to help him defend their country? And the answer was yes, he did. And that's one of the conditions that Benson is talking about. Okay, and number 20, I'm up to Ethan again. Maybe we'll just skip over to Jaquel. Number 20, Jaquel. Benson says we should oppose every government program unless we could, in clear conscience, put a man to death, put him in jail, take away his property, or punch him in the nose ourselves.
I would say true.
That would be true. In other words, if we're going to give their government power to go take our neighbor's property, then we better be prepared to do it ourselves individually before we can ask our government to do it for us. Okay, that's the end of the test, and that's also the end of our time. So, What I want you to do for this coming week is read the rest of the book. We ended on page 18 where it said the Constitution of the United States, and now you need to finish the rest of it all the way up to the end, which is page 34, 18 to 34. Small pages, easy to read. And then on Wednesday, I will send you out a quiz to answer the questions about what you read in those pages. Any questions or final comments before we hurry up and close the classroom? Jaquel. I can't hear you.
Goodbye.
What?
I was saying goodbye.
Oh, say goodbye. Send me your scores or your papers. Multiply the number of correct answers times 5 and send me that number. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Peace out, everyone.